not just, Tony, thank you so much. This is not just, what I'm excited about, guys, is that this is not just a local thing. This is not just here, but this is here in New York. I mean, I think New York is ancient. I've done a lot of traveling in New York. Every time I come back, I'm like, I gotta use cash again. Like, really? Because everywhere else is debit as normal. Like, you know, you can go to the store, it's very normal. You come back to New York, you gotta have cash for everything. But go ahead.
I have an important question. You have, for daily digest, sometimes have a limit. You have, like, you have to use $10.
Yeah, on the debit.
Always gonna be there?
You know why that's there?
Why?
Because the fees is so high. So in Canada, the fees drop so low that now you can use a debit card people use it for $1. Buy a pack of gum, they go, bloop, that's it.
Is that gonna be the transition?
It was everywhere else, so I just assumed, if you could assume, yeah.
So for those stores, they only accept like a credit card, debit card above $10. I learned that if a customer complains about it, they can be sued, right?
That's right.
There used to be a rule in the US where it was really against the law to do that, but now they took that away.
Oh.
So because the fees were so high, you couldn't force a retailer to take a card where the fees were gonna be 8 or 9% of the transaction, right? And that's, you know, anybody you see that card like that, they're paying way too much.
Yeah.
That's an instant win right there.
Yeah, I'm going.
You see anybody says minimum $10, that's a guy that you want to talk to because he's being overcharged for sure.
So we definitely.
Oh yeah, you can save them a lot and give them an EMV compliant system and save them money.
But it's not gonna reduce your fees immediately.
Immediately, the minute they put the machine in.
The reason that the fees are so high is because the risk assessment for processing those transactions costs more, or there's more spread in there to cover the risk assessment. So as the risk for fraud goes down, the rates will go down because it'll be a less risky transaction. So somebody can pay for it.
So the other thing.
So if I go in and I promise that, if I go in and I say, your fees are high because of the fraud risk.
There's two conditions where that guy's with a sign. Either he's a high risk merchant, right? He fell under the high rate because of some issue with him, owner, credit, or he's with a processor that's just kind of, you know, taking advantage. So in most cases, what we've done is we said to Chase, give us the lowest rates possible. We'll take those rates. We'll look at the statement and we say, okay, we have an automated system that we punch in the data of the statement, and it'll tell us what we can offer that customer. Sometimes it'll be cheaper. In most cases, it'll be exactly what they're paying, but they're getting the system.
So here's an interesting situation. You walk in and you ask, let's say one of those delis, and they don't let you use your debit card without a minimum. Wouldn't that be, what if they don't hit the 5,000 mark? Could it be the reason they don't hit the 5,000 mark yet is because of that minimum? And then once we switch them over,
could be.
They take away that minimum, and all of a sudden their payments will
For
increase
us,
over
the company needs to have at least 10,000 for the last 3 months if they're a cash business.
Right.
They need to be we can provide 3 months bank statements, and as long as they're doing at least $10,000 a month, then we can work with that client. What are the fees if they don't already have a system?
No, before we even get into that, I want you to keep in mind that it's not completely necessary that they meet that. That's only the requirements for them to obtain the system in that manner.
Right.
However, if the merchant wanted to switch over and initiate a new line of business, they do have the option to pay for machines.
Yeah, for example, let's say you found someone that does $3,500 a month processing. He's a good client. Maybe he's got relationships, got more stores. We'll look at that, and he may end up paying a base fee of $30 a month or something, $40 a month to make up the cost of the shortfall of the process. So it really.
So is there any ever an upfront fee?
No.
Oh, that's awesome. I did not know that.
There's never an upfront fee. There's never a monthly, quarterly fee. There's never an annual fee. There are no fees other than what we negotiate from the payments. So for example, I put a system in and you don't use the payments machine, I'm out of luck, I got nothing out of it, right? I can't bill the customer. So that's happened too, it's happened.
So
I
what
put
if you have
machine
a
in
cash business
Yeah.
and, there would be no upfront fee?
Well,
Even
there
if it's
is,
a cash business,
there's no,
if it's
we
a
don't,
cash business
yeah,
only doing $7,000.
we don't do cash business at all.
There you go.
No, if it's just cash only, we don't do those guys. There's no way for us to bill.
No, they have to process, they
They've
have
gotta
to sign the
process.
processing
I
agreement.
thought if they were doing cash and they wanted to start.
Oh, that's
No,
fine.
that's a new
fine.
account.
But if they're
Yeah,
just
new.
a cash business, never want to do
No,
processing.
that they
yeah.
wanna do, no,
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
saying they're
yeah,
a
yeah.
cash business
Well,
and they
then what
wanna
we
do
do is we
processing.
set a minimum rate,
Right,
we evaluate after 3 months
Mhm.
and adjust the rate.
but they're still, right,
Yeah,
but no
that's what I was
upfront,
saying.
right, that was.
So a merchant in his scenario would ask, when they find out this information, let's say they are only processing about 3,000 this month, and it's, in some way, shape, or form due to the fact that they have a minimum requirement. Now, once they, they accept the lower rate and, you can use, POS to pay for smaller transactions, the transactions pick up and now they have 5,000-6,000 a month. Do you guys quarterly assess the production to reevaluate the terms on what they would be responsible for?
What we'll do is we'd set, probably what we do in that case is we'd set the rate based on 5,000. And then if it doesn't hit it, we adjust it up in 3 months as opposed to adjusting it down. As opposed to saying, okay, now we have to increase your rate. Nobody likes an increase.
Right.
So we might as well set the rate at a 5,000. And if it goes down, say, by the way, guess what? We just saved you an extra $300 in a quarter. We just reduced it for you. That's a feel-good thing. As opposed to say, we gotta increase it by 300, So we always,
Yeah, then at that point, we'll look like the next guy.
right. So we always want to set it a little bit higher than we expect and then reduce it after 3 months.
Are we able to, help the merchant to apply for the, Durbin Amendment?
There'd been an amendment that disappears with the EMV.
So by the time of October 1st, that not gonna happen.
Well, what's gonna happen with that amendment, which is basically saying tied to debit, right? Is that that's all tied to limiting the cost of debit transaction. In fact, this is the only jurisdiction in the world where debit is charged with interchange.
Mhm.
Basically, another scan, right?
Yeah.
So you pay 10 cents for the transaction plus 1.45% of Visa or whoever the brand on the debit card is. We don't have that in Canada. The banks issue debit cards separately from credit. And that's why the debit
So
fees are
it's
so
not Visa
low.
or MasterCard.
You're not paying
Okay.
interchange on it. So what Durbin Amendment is really designed to do is to limit the cost that the processor can charge. They were charging at 45 cents, like ridiculous amounts, right? So with EMV, we hope that the Durbin Amendment, the main processors will come into the market and probably try to drive that price down, and will. They will for sure. And it'll make that that amendment irrelevant, because Chase doesn't go out to, or First Data, which is Bank of America, doesn't go out to, to kind of kill the merchant on a debit transaction. They want customers debit, because why? Because you have to have a bank balance, want money in our bank account. So they want people to use debit versus cash, because the balances stay in the accounts. That's what banks want.
Oh.
They don't want you to take the money out of the account, walk around with cash in your pocket. They want to hold on to your money so they can invest
They
it.
can invest it.
They want debit,
Put it in.
right? They don't want people to walk around with $300 or $400 in cash in their pocket.
Mm.
They want that $300 or $400 on account.
Yeah, for 10 more hours.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, 10,
Right.
300 or 400 times a million is 300 or 400 million. Is, we're not talking about, So that's what the banks want. They want debit. They want people